Hello, everybody. Welcome back for another episode of Don't Talk If You Don't Know, the unofficial, official power rankings and podcast for all things competitive North American teamfight tactics. My name is Frodan. We're back for another week. Today is February 21st. And you may notice, right, we're not broadcasting on a Thursday. It's not like a tournament leading up to the show. That's right. We're back to review the Corrupted Cup that happened just a couple of days ago. But first, let's check in with my co-host, as always, is Bryce Blum. Bryce, how you doing?
You know what? We're chilling. It was a crazy day. I had like a really up and down day, kind of a rough day. And I even messaged you before we started, like, hey, I might not be totally myself. And then I hopped on and like we started talking about TFT and my brain just like clicked into TFT mode. This is why TFT is so fucking great, man. It's such a good escape. Like I fucking love this game. I love this community.
Oh, that's true. Bryce was telling me, he's like, listen, man, the day's been crazy. I'm not sure if I can bring in the podcast. He sits down. He looks happy. Looks like in his element. Nothing has changed a beat. Glad to have you, man. All right. Speaking of being glad to happen, you may have seen him on our co-streams. You may have seen him dethrone your favorite players from final lobbies the past couple of events. It's Clear TFT. What's up, Clear? Welcome to the podcast, man.
Oh, hello. I'm Clear.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. How
Wow,
has the past few days been for you?
Fire clear right out of the gates.
Clear, talk to me a little bit about just how's life been outside of TFT, like macro stuff for you.
I mean, I feel like if you ask like any TFT player, they're never gonna have a good answer because like if they're at this level of the game, like they don't do anything except play TFT. So I have not been doing much.
Okay, besides TFT and school, right? Because you're still in school.
Oh, I'm working right now, but yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, we also want to welcome for the first time WasianIverson joining us. Do you want people to call you WasianIverson? Do you want to call you your real name? Like, what do people say?
Either is fine. Like WasianIverson.
Are you good at basketball? Is that the origin story here?
Not like very good, but like I played on my high school team.
Okay.
So maybe about that level.
Was your high school good? Like, how big of a high school are we talking? Is this like you had 12 kids in your class, or you had like 100 kids in your class?
Like 100 kids in the class or something.
Okay. Are you tall? You look tall to me.
Yeah, I think I'm like 6'2", so pretty tall.
Whoa, man! TFT players are pretty tall, bro. Like
Yeah,
Milk and
seriously.
Soju.
Appies is a job. I did not see it coming, man. I thought he was gonna be really small.
They're all so tall, man.
Yeah, Precedent. My God,
the tallest of the bunch.
Yeah.
Wait, Bosso Skills is taller than Wasian? Is that true?
No, he's like 5'4".
No way. Sorry, I didn't mean to laugh so loudly, Nico. But
I thought. Wait, were you serious or were you joking?
Wait, me?
Yeah.
Or chat? Oh,
No, Bosso.
Oh, Bosso.
No. He's asking.
No. Like
you.
how? Like when you said
Wait,
you said he was 5'4". Were you joking or were you serious? I couldn't tell.
Oh no, he's like I don't know, maybe he's like 5'9" or something. I'm not really sure.
Okay. So he split the difference. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was memeing. That's why I laughed. But I was like, oh wait, is he serious?
That's right, man. He's about to drive for the AlphaTauri Formula 1 team. But anyways, welcome to the show. And it's cool because these review episodes, I think, are really good opportunities to highlight good performances. And I feel like these two players in particular have really stood out to us. They just so happen to be in the same practice group. Before we actually jump into just talking about the Corrupted Cup, actually, let's talk about specifically you two and your dynamic. How often are you guys actually talking to about TFT to each other, and like what was even the origin story of how you guys even like met online and started practicing and talking about TFT?
Oh, like you guys are in the server, so what you see on the server is like everything. We don't really like talk like one-on-one very much, I would say.
Okay. So then tell me about your first impression of Clear Wasian. When like you may have heard of him, but like the first time talking to him, what was the first thoughts going through your mind?
He seemed very, very confident in himself. Very confident in his TFT gameplay. But at the same time, I think I'm not sure. I think the first time I really heard a lot about Clear was like during set 7. And I think I remember thinking that he was like really good at playing Olaf.
That's true. He
Clear, were you good at Olaf? How good were you at Olaf?
I mean, like back when he was good, I was probably best Olaf. North America.
Pokygom's gonna have words, bro.
That's right. That's right.
I wish we could go back in time and like do a 1v1.
Oh no, I actually remember because the first interaction I had with Pokegum was because like he took like a break after mid set. He wasn't playing set 7.5 much, and then he started asking me about like how I was playing Olaf, and like he was asking me tips.
Interesting.
So,
Interesting. Okay.
Well, we know you were better at the time when he was asking, but did he wind up better? Is the question.
Okay. Actually, I have a question. What was the higher peak? Set 7 clear TFT playing Olaf, or set 7 clear TFT playing Varus?
oh, it was probably Varus because like Olaf, like by the time the tournaments came around, by the time regionals, I felt like Olaf was like completely unplayable. Whereas like I could actually play like Varus during tournaments.
I think you were one of the only people who could, though, right? There were not a lot of players that were open to Varus in that tournament, where it's like a core part of your strategy because you were so good at it. You could actually pull it off from a lot of different spots.
Oh, I feel like the only thing that made me good at playing Varus was that I could hit double trouble. I mean, like the biggest thing was like everyone thought that Varus was like a comp you play like when you're low rolling, and then like I'll just play this and I'll get like a top 4. But I felt like Varus was really good when you had a super high roll opener. And then from there, with your high roll opener, you just play Varus and then you lock it in. Because then, like, you can't lower your shops anymore. Like, every shop is always consistent. So once you lock in that super high roll augment, you can't lower your shop, and then, like, you just don't get BG'd for the rest of the game.
Interesting. That just sounds
Very
exactly
interesting.
like Clear with Day, just very
Yeah.
like systematically try to narrow everything down to almost guarantee it. That does seem to define his playstyle. Okay, last introduction question. It's probably something we should have started off with, which was like, what kind of got you into TFT or competitive TFT in the first place? A lot of people have tried it, they moved on, or some people like compete for like a set. What's kept you coming back? We'll start off with Clear.
Well, I just started playing TFT because I was playing, like, League at the time, and, like, they launched, and it was, like, really hyped around the time. But I would say, like, when I actually got good at the game was probably set 3. I just, like, lucked into Masters, even though I was, like, not that good at the game. And then I queued into Ine, who was like rank 1 at the time.
Yeah, what a beast.
You know?
And then I queued into him like 3 or 4 games in a row, and he was just like completely like styling on me. Like he was like destroying me. And then after I looked up his stream, and then like he was doing like so many things at the time. Like back then we didn't have like matchup trackers or anything. So like if you wanted to know like the 3 people you could face, you would have to like put it all down in like a notepad, and like you would just like memorize it like mentally, and then he would do like portal scouting. To like narrow it down even further, and I was just like really
Portal
impressed with that.
scouting.
Yeah, he was such a sweat. He was so
Giga
effortless
sweat.
about it too. It didn't feel like he was sweating when he did it. It just felt like his brain was processing so much different shit that he could just like do more with a turn.
You have to explain what portal scouting is, either Clear or Bro.
Yeah, so they removed it in set 3, but like back then, you either had a portal or you didn't. And then if you had a portal and someone else had a portal, then you couldn't face each other. So if you knew the 3 people you could face, and then two of them didn't have portals, and then you had a portal, then you can know like you could only face those 2 people. And sometimes you can narrow it down to like even just one person. So you basically get future sight, like without future sight.
But you get future sight for like how long was the
Like
port
a
out there?
second, like
2 seconds tops.
Yeah.
Right? But he could literally scout it, get the information, and then go back to his board and like reposition it in key ways.
Yeah, I think it was like the last 5 seconds. The portal
Was it
shows
5
up.
seconds? Oh, okay. For some reason I thought it was
Yeah.
shorter than that.
Oh, actually, you're right, because the portal would come out, and then it would be the clock dongs and stuff like that.
Oh, interesting.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's still pretty fast. Ine is one of the great North American players that never was, because he like quit the game before we had real tournaments, but he would have
back.
been. He's back. Is he back for real though? Is
I
he
mean,
like actually playing the
He
game?
was streaming, but he's kind of like Hardstuck GM or something.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
saw
I
him.
think
I
he's
saw him
playing
stream
for fun.
occasionally. He's just kind of playing for fun.
Yeah,
It's a very different
yeah.
thing, right? Like it's like Clear said. Like if you have a life, then you're probably not an elite TFT player for the most part. It's not true for everyone, but like for the most part, it's just too hard, man. There's just too much going on. But yeah, Ine would have been up there. He would have been part of the conversation. He was every bit as good as Sox was when Sox was styling on the server. Ine was that good.
He was in many ways kind of like a predecessor to someone like DQA and Big Source and some of these other like really young, really cracked players. Oh, but enough about the past. That was a really good trip down memory lane. Thank you, Clear. Wasian, your background, origin story for TFT.
Oh yeah, so I'm a bit of a TFT zoomer. I didn't even know who Ine was until like 1 or 2 weeks ago. I mean, like
I feel old.
when the game launched, I like heard about it because I was like playing League at the time, but I guess I didn't really like actually play until set 6. I mean, I just had like a lot of time because of the pandemic. Kind of got like bored of League or whatever.
Oh wow.
So I just like started grinding, and then I hit Challenger pretty quickly, like 2 or or maybe more than like 300 games or something. But I don't know. I feel like I hit Challenger like pretty effortlessly, and then I didn't really think much of it. But in set 7, I like came back, and then I started to like grind for real, and like I found out about tournaments and stuff. Got kind of interested in that, so I started like grinding to like instead of being like a low Challenger player, I want to be like top of the ladder and like one of the best.
That's actually really fascinating. Bryce, I'll go first, and you can follow.
Yeah, please
up.
go.
How did you learn TFT so fast? A lot of players want to do that. They're like, oh, I'll try this game. And then they get to the 0.1%, like almost in their first go around. Many people take multiples. I mean, Clear says that he got to Masters and he lucked his way through before he kind of figured it out and got his footing. How did you learn TFT so quickly?
I think one big thing is like I always played like a lot of strategy games growing up, like chess, board games, that kind of thing. So I mean, there's a lot of elements that you can take from that. Like another thing is like I just watched like a lot of streams, and like I think I was pretty much just copying like what I saw other people doing. Even if I didn't really understand it at the time, I would just copy it, and then yeah, copy the comps, copy one day level, that kind of stuff.
Okay. And then from there, try to figure out the critical decision making.
Yeah, and then trying to figure out like why they're actually doing it to improve upon it.
And do you think that transition has officially occurred for you? Like, do you think you like really get the why now and are kind of like applying that to your own games?
Yeah, I think so. I think like pretty much every decision I'm making, there's at least like some reason behind it, even if it's not always the best reason.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Actually, that's what you just said is one thing that like Goobums, for example, thinks is the hallmark of a good player. Because he's like, there's way too many players you VOD review them and they can't actually defend every decision they made. There's like there's just moments where they're just like kind of working off instinct or whatever, which is interesting.
I laugh because I know exactly who he's referring to. Whenever he says they can't justify it, when he says some players, he means Soulless.
He means Soulless. There are other players too, but Soulless is like the best player who
that can't explain it. Soulless explains things by saying, "Oh, I'm a high roller. That's why I did it," because he believes that he'll get bailed out in that situation.
Sorry, you were gonna say something about Soulless or Gooms? I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I was just laughing.
Oh, sorry.
He's chuckling.
Okay,
chuckling. Chat wants to know what your rank was, by the way, in League. Looks like they're very curious. Wasian, how good were you at League?
Oh, I was like not that good. I think I was like hard stuck flat or something.
Oh, were you like cracked at the strategy games you play, like chess and shit? Were you cracked at those?
No, I was like pretty average. Maybe like a little bit above average in chess.
So wait, is this the first game where you've been like a elite level player in your life?
Yeah, for sure.
Interesting. That's very interesting. That surprises me. I would have gone the other way on that one.
Bryce,
okay, so
they're also like 21, man. So in their life, it's like they've had only a few chances.
But if we're being honest, like a lot of the people who are really great at TFT were also cracked at like other strategy games, whatever that was.
Oh, thank you. I mean, I was.
You're the exception to the rule, Dan.
Yeah, I definitely noticed that. I think I'm the exception. I was like, just like barely above average in like most games I played before.
Yeah, very interesting. Okay, a quick follow-up question on that. So you're newer to being like a beast at TFT. Which means that you didn't actually learn necessarily on the conventional wisdom of TFT. There's like a lot of ingrained habits that we have that go like sets back. Do you think there's any do you think that's part of your edge? Do you like feel like you approach the game differently than kind of the conventional wisdom, or is that not a thing?
No, I don't really think that's the thing. I think I think just by like watching streams a lot, you kind of pick up the conventional wisdom. And like I remember like set 8, it was like kind of like early in set 8 was like the first time that there was like patches where like rolling like really heavily on 3-2 was correct, and it was like completely new to me because I feel like all of set 7 was just like fast 8, fast 9 meta, so it was just like I don't know if in earlier sets like rolling on 3-2 a lot was a thing, but that was just like completely new to me, and like it took a while for me to get used to.
It's the best metas of TFT. When rolling on 3-2 is actually viable, that's like a huge litmus test for when the meta is pretty good, in my opinion.
Okay. Assuming it's not like a Jax Yumi situation, but
you don't want it to be like everyone is all in on 3-2. That's just an RNG fest. That's just like the same thing as bad as a 4-1 meta. It's just happening earlier. I'm talking about when like certain lines, certain low roll spots, like it's heavily incentivized to roll on 3-2, and others are playing. Because then it makes the cadence of the lobby feel a lot more balanced. Opposed to like everyone trying to fast 8 to roll for the same fucking units.
All right, Claire, as we transition to finally talk about what we're here to discuss, which is Corrupted Cup. Were you good at League before you transitioned to TFT? What was your rank?
Oh, I was also hard stuck plat, and then sometimes also hard stuck gold.
Man, I'm the
mean-
best league player on this call. It's lit.
Oh man,
I mean,
yeah,
I was-
because I was plat too when I played League, so we're all up some
Man, you
bunch of
guys
plat
suck.
gamers.
I mean, I feel like other than TFT, the only game I ever could have been like actually good at was maybe like Yu-Gi-Oh.
Oh,
And did you play competitively?
Yu-Gi-Oh?
I went to like 1 or 2 tournaments. The thing about Yu-Gi-Oh is that like you have to actually go to the event. Like you have to actually go to the place.
Yeah.
And then like very rarely does it rotate into your area. So like at most you'll be able to go like once every like 1 or 2 years, unless like you're willing to travel.
Yeah, and
Interesting.
most people don't have the money to do so. But I'm glad that we have you in TFT, and I'm glad that both of you were able to do very well at Corrupted Cup. Let me actually pull it up here real quick. So let's start off with the very beginning of Corrupted Cup. We can't have a discussion about day 3 without talking about the last place finisher. It is Nick, aka Nikhil22M, aka King Cracks, who dropped out of the tournament after what happened was he picked the Samira hero augment, but then all 12 Samiras were out of the pool. So when he picked up the orb, it converted to 4 gold. And then he decided to quit the tournament with this message, actually. Let me pull it up.
He
said,
literally
quote,
came into our co-stream, right?
well, this is in his chat. So technically this was what he posted
Oh,
in
that's
his
right.
chat
We had it.
first.
Okay, right.
But
Right,
then it
right,
was reposted everywhere. He typed,
Right,
quote,
right.
I am go out and enjoy the night and watch the NBA All-Star game in all caps, which, by the way, the NBA All-Star game happened on Sunday. He quit on Saturday. But I think he meant
You
to
wanted
go
to
watch
watch the skills competition.
Yeah, he wanted to watch the skills competition. He wanted to see Damian Lillard set the hoop on fire. He wanted to see Max.
He actually
McClung.
he knew it was going to be the first good dunk contest in the last
years,
like
yeah.
8 years. It's been such a long time since the dunk contest was worth watching.
Right,
He knew.
since, like Zach LaVine and Aaron Gordon, right? That was like the last really good one.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
either way, really funny storyline, but I mean, they gotta punish him, right, Bryce? It feels like you can't just let this guy be like
Dude.
okay, we'll see you in set 9 or something like that.
Yeah, it's tough because on the one hand, this is like an all-time meme. The message, the copy pasta is like so good. The fact that like the thing that caused him to tilt would actually tilt most players. Like I get that. Like that sucks. You take a Samir hero augment and they're literally out of the pool on 4-2. It's like holy fucking shit. Right? Like and you don't know because you didn't scout. So he actually picks it up and he gets the gold for it, which is like really salt in the wound. Okay, so it's funny, but at the same time, this is like not okay at all, and we need to be really serious about that. Like, it's actually terrible for competitive integrity. He harmed this event. It's entirely possible the event runs differently if he just keeps playing and trying at all, right? And like, yeah, they should. If it were my call, I would strip him of his qualifier points for the set. I would ban him from competing for the rest of the set, and I would ban him from next set. And I'd say you can come back in set 10.
Set 10.
But like, this is a really big deal, and if you don't punish it accordingly, I think that it's gonna happen again. Like, I think there should be some deterrent factor to this, and like, I don't feel bad about that because it's just it really harmed the integrity of the event.
Okay, before we ask for Clear and Waisian to chime in here, I got clarification from Yenwei saying that he was DQ'd because he FF'd that game specifically. So just to add a little bit more context of what happened, but
I mean, it's the same thing, right? When you FF a game, you know that you're doing
messing
it,
with it,
right?
Yeah, I think he actually turned off his stream before he got DQ'd. I might be wrong on that, but like I think he was kind of already intending to like not play out the rest of the tournament, even if he did get DQ'd.
I mean, as competitors, how did you guys feel about it?
Oh well, I was in the game. I was actually like I was shocked when I saw that he FF'd, and he was like second or third highest HP in the lobby. I mean, that lobby was like really absurd. There was 2 people that hit Samira 2 on their 3-5, and then like 4 people took Daredevil or something. But I was like really, just really shocked when he FF'd because I mean I thought he could actually still get a decent placement, like at least like a 6th or something, and yeah, I mean I knew it wasn't allowed, so I was like, wow, that's kind of crazy.
Hold on.
Ripple said he got a free round off him FFing, so he actually FF'd like before the round started.
I didn't even realize that he had the highest HP, or like one of the highest HP in the lobby either. That
Yeah,
completely changes the context.
He's got like 65 HP when it happens on 4-2. He's like fine. I mean, it sucks, but he has. I think he doesn't have a Senna 2 on his board.
Yeah, he has like 2 or 3 items or something.
Yeah, he's like fine. It's like not.
Well,
The
I mean, the thing is like he's down like the entire augment, not just the
Yeah.
Samira. Because like
Oh,
if he had like a Samira
yeah, for
1
sure.
and he was
Yeah,
just like
for sure.
guaranteed Heartstuck Samira 1, it's like sort of playable.
Mhm.
But, like he had Daredevil and like he can't even get the Daredevil value.
But that is on him, right? Because he could. It sucks, but he could have easily scouted, recognized that they were all gone, and then just waited to pick it up. And if he waits to pick it up, then he can, hopefully he can use his HP lead, someone dies, and then it's Daredevil. You never know what the fuck's gonna happen. Like a bunch of Samiras get back in the pool, all the low HP people kill each other. Like that's a comeback augment. You get insane amounts of HP if you get it online with a really low amount of health. So I don't know.
Yeah, the other thing I want to say is I also picked Daredevil, and I think I picked up my orb like right before him, so I actually got.
Yes. Yes. And did you scout? You had no idea they were all gone, right?
Oh, I knew like a ton were gone, but I didn't even consider that like all 12 could be gone.
Right,
Yeah.
right. That's crazy. That's crazy. Well, the 7-player lobbies also ends up like being a really unhealthy dynamic. I think some people listening might be like, well, what's the big deal? Like just play 7 players out of 8. It just changes it completely when people get, essentially like weaker rounds, weaker opponents. And also it just really emphasizes who has the better opener and able to really push that lead over some of the people who are kind of low rolling. So it just messes up lobby complexion significantly. So not cool, Nick. It's not like we don't want you to ever compete in TFT again, but like, you can't do that, man. You can't pull. Like, what? Come on, man. Come on. That being said, let's talk a little bit about some of the other eliminations as well. We saw like Soju and Robin. Like, Soju getting eliminated, that doesn't necessarily like surprise us. It was a really hard field, and also he was, by his own admission, not the most prepared going into it. Robin was kind of a shocker for us. It feels like one of the first events where Robin really didn't pop off, but it almost felt like overdue in a sense. Like, surely, man, this guy can't like top 8 every tournament he ever plays, Bryce.
Yeah, I didn't actually realize it. I was like busy that week, so I missed the fact that like he was coming back from vacation and that he came back pretty close to the tournament. And if this was a structural changes patch. Like there's a meaningful amount of shit you need to unlearn and things you need to do to approach this patch differently in order to be successful in this tournament. It just wasn't enough time for him to get caught up. I'm really not reading anything into it. I think this was just like he didn't really have incentive to be in peak form. He was clearly not in peak form. I think he'll be fine for mid set, but I could be wrong.
Yep. Okay. All right. Clear Equation. Are there any other players that you felt either surprised or any other emotions that when you see some of these names that got eliminated on day 3?
Just one quick thing on Soju. Like he got eliminated, but I feel like his elimination was like kind of bullshit. It's like that like Samir augment thing that everyone knows about, where like he had like underground and then brawler on 3-2. And then it was
right,
like,
and he didn't get offered it.
Yeah, and then it was 3-3-4, and then he gets Sejuani one first one, and then after he gets 4 randoms, and then like I'm pretty sure if he gets a Samir augment, he is guaranteed first. Like he is actually guaranteed first, and then like he gets forced to take like last like slingshot, and then he's like actually guaranteed 8th. Which there's no player in the world that isn't going to reroll Sejuani, and then after that you have to just keep rolling. So I feel like it wasn't even his fault that like he went 8th that game.
Yep, it's a good shout. It's a good shout. I mean, people
That's
were
the
asking
thing about TFT. Usually the variance curveball I think is within a margin of error, but like you can actually just the game can just fuck you sometimes. Like it's 6 game sample size is not big enough to control for that.
Yep. Agreed.
I mean the thing is with the Samira augment, specifically Samira, it's actually a lot harder to control her augments. Based on like what Mordog has said, like specifically Samira, you're like a lot more likely to like not hit the augment you want to hit for whatever reason.
Yeah.
We don't understand that reason.
I think he does. He just has not told us yet.
Like it sounds like the tailoring is different for like certain traits / units. Like Ace can show up. It feels like Ace feels like a threat where like it feels like it can always sort of show up, but also the tailoring for her doesn't feel nearly as aggressive as it does for like I don't know Zed or Talia, where it feels like you actually do just get it literally.
I read a theory, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, Clear or Wasian or even Bryce, is that the system checks, like basically the system like rolls for like what you could get. And so let's say he has like Brawler and Underground, and it just kept rolling Sejuani over and over and over, but because he got offered Sejuani, he can't get it again, and therefore it was random, and that's where you get like Acel and a bunch of like other different stuff like Zach. I'm not sure if that's true. Again, we're just left to basically come up with our own theories at this point because we don't understand hero augments, and I guess we won't because set 8.5 PB is coming out in like a week and a half. You know, just letting everybody know it's actually pretty soon, which is wild to think about. I can't believe the set's almost over.
I know, it's crazy.
All right, wait, Wasian, real quick. Any names on day 3 that stood out to you from like elimination or people they thought played well but didn't make it?
I guess the big ones, like, well, you already brought it up, but Robin, like, I actually thought this guy was like allergic to getting day 3 before.
Yeah,
I think he made
seriously.
day 4 like 5 times in a row or something. So I was pretty shocked to see him get day 3. That's the big one.
All right, well, let's move on to day number 4. Rob's gonna come back strong. Don't worry.
Oh, can we talk about Broccoli really fast?
Oh, sure, absolutely.
I just think he's interesting because I think you and I were talking about this off show, but I think it's just like interesting to say out loud because I think we don't talk about Broccoli enough as a player. I think he's a really high ceiling player that has kind of flown below the radar in a competitive TFT, even though he's been around for a little while. I think it's because he kind of ebbs and flows in how much he's thinking about the game. Like there are times when he's actually really good, and there's times where he's like less plugged in. And if you're not plugged into this game, it's like really hard to be that good. So I think his skill ceiling as a player is really high. I think it's about as high as anyone on the server, but it feels like he can only learn a narrow part of the game. And so like this tournament, it felt like he like was insane at 80 flex, but pretty weak on some of the other lines. And I think it likely cost him. I haven't watched his games, but I'd be surprised if that wasn't the basis for why he did not make it to day 4.
Yeah. I really wanted to watch Broccoli, but all of his VODs were private, so I couldn't watch his game.
It's becoming more of a trend these days. Everyone's hiding their VODs like sweats, man. Or out of embarrassment, but it's probably out of sweating.
Yeah.
I agree. I think Broccoli's really good at what he's good at, but I think these tournaments, like Bryce always likes to emphasize, you just don't get the amount of volume to be able to get the exposure. I think Broccoli was forced to play like a weird AP line one game, just looked really lost. So it happens. But we're here to focus on people that did do well. So this is like technically the day 4 like eliminations, but also the people that advanced the top 16. And what a really competitive top 16 it was. If you actually look, let me pull up a little closer about who actually advanced to the top 16. This, in my opinion, is actually kind of like pretty close to regionals caliber. Sans, like Robin, for example, or Soju, or some of the other players that you might expect to see. It feels like one of the most competitive tournaments yet. Does that feel the same to you, Clear, when you were competing in this environment?
I would say like top 16 didn't felt like too different from top 32. I feel like top 32 was also like really competitive, like a lot more competitive than like other top 32s I played. Like I remember like Astro Cup top 32. I feel like it's like a little bit Mickey Mouse, but I feel like this one, like all 32 players were actually like really good at the game. So I definitely felt like a lot of pressure, even like the games before top 16.
Yeah, I can agree with that, and it's actually very true too, because you just look at like Dish Soap and Socks and Setsuko, and they're all like top in the points, man. It's actually kind of cool to see them actually live up to the hype. It just feels like every time we're like these great ladder players coming into it, can they actually kind of put their ladder results? Now I feel like I'm actually looking directly at their LP correlation. It almost feels exactly like that.
Yeah. I think that there's two very different stories going on there, but I don't think this is at all a fluke. I think those two are here to stay on top of the tournament success in addition to their ladder success. I think Dish Soap has improved like quite a bit as a player over the course of the last set, and I think I don't think he ever really had tournament jitters. I think last set was 2 sets ago he wasn't as good. Last set, I think he was pretty close to this good, quite frankly, and he had bad tournament variance across the set. Like I watched a lot of those games. And he was already ready to pop off. So this is just normal variance or above for him. Obviously, he's got some high rolls. Like I remember we were watching like an anima game of his where he got Giga bailed out, for example. But he's really fucking good. And then Setsuko, I think actually did have tournament jitters. Like I think that it really there were a lot of ways in which his play in tournaments felt like scared to me. I think Setsuko is like one of the most confident players in game in doing what he's doing. And I feel like he wasn't nearly as decisive in tournaments before, but he is now.
He is now.
Both the last 2 tournaments, and look the fuck out because he's like one of the highest skill ceiling players on the whole server. He might be the highest skill ceiling player on the server. So if he's playing with confidence and tourney, man, I would love to send Setsuko to Worlds. Love. He would be competitive.
I would love that as well. Okay, question to the field. So we'll start off with Clear and then maybe Wasian. who do you think had the most underrated performance that landed in the top 16? We're picking top 16 because from top 16 they played one lobby and they cut to top 8. So it feels like the achievement in my eyes is landing in the top 16 first. It also gives you more options to pick. So Clear, who do you think had the most under the radar, like should have been getting more praise for having a great weekend?
I mean, it's mostly like based on like my perspective, based on like playing with these players, and like a lot of these players I just never got into lobbies with. So like Phoenix, for example, I don't think I played a single game with them, so like I can't really evaluate them since I haven't seen their VODs either. But Solo Minhee, he was in my lobbies a lot, and I was just like really impressed with like the way he played. I remember one game he was 4 loss, and then I was 4 loss, and then he sold his entire board, and then I also sold my entire board, and then he lost the coin flip, and he got his streak broken, whereas I got to keep my streak. But like
wow.
like I feel like he wasn't like tilted at all, and like he was just able to like bounce back, and I think he's still like top 3 that game. So I was just like really impressed with like his mental like fortitude.
Okay. Wait, I think Minnie's in chat. Minnie, were you tilted after Clear full sold along with you and you matched into him and you lost the 50-50 coin flip? Let us know. But in the meantime, while we're waiting for his response, Wasian, who was the most impressive player from your POV at the top 16?
Oh, well, maybe I'm not sure about like most impressive or anything, but I think I mean Clear had like an insane performance, right? Like top 3. I think he played really well. I did watch his games, and I'm not sure like how much credit he's actually getting or going to get for this tournament performance, but I think he deserves a lot of credit. I think he played really well this weekend.
Clear, we invite him to the podcast. That is some credit.
Oh, but I'm just worried because some people might try and write it off, but I think he did deserve this performance.
Very, very.
Yeah.
Humble, very, very
I think Clear was maybe the fastest player on the patch to adjust, the fastest player on the server to adjust to the patch, the structural changes in the patch. It just felt like you had very clear direction on it very early on. Some of those early watch parties and stuff, or like times we were watching games together, there were like a lot of other people who had already played a decent amount, who didn't know like how broken one cost reroll was, for example, and like you knew all of the lines. So you're like, basically, if it was, my guess is in those lobbies, if it was 2-1 hero augment, your average placement was probably like a 2 or something, because like you just were way ahead of the curve knowledge wise. I think your instincts were really, really good in the swap.
Yeah,
I mean,
oh, go ahead.
The biggest thing about that, like I remember doing the week 1 watch party, and I was talking about like all these augments, like the Lux carry augment, Renekton carry augment, Reign of Anger. And the thing is, I had like 5 games on the patch, and I never played like any of these augments. But just like looking at the stats, like it was like clear to me that like what the Renekton line should have been, and like it was very clear that you just like reroll for like vertical brawlers, and then you go 6 brawler, and then like the itemization was also really clear to me. And then I also have to like give a little bit of credit to like Pokigam. I remember like early in the patch, I was talking about like some of the support augments, like the Stylus support augment, and he was telling me he was like straight up, none of these support augments are like even like remotely takeable. Like this patch is gonna be like dominated by like the carry augments, and I really took that to heart, and I like started like analyzing them a lot more.
Yeah, that makes tons of sense.
I mean, Pokigam is like one of the 1-cost masters of North America for sure, for better or for worse.
Yeah, I mean, he can do it in an environment without hero augments, right? But like adding hero augments is like a whole nother layer for him. It's like I think a lot of people don't express a lot of skill probably around hero augments, if I'm being completely honest. I just don't think it's usually that interesting of a skill-based decision. But I think that Pocky probably finds like nuance and probably finds some of his edge there in like weird ways.
Yeah. I do want to highlight, by the way, as I pulled the scores, Clear actually had the best performance on day 4. Setsuko won off of bonus points. So
yeah,
just to add, like if we went, it was a different format. If it was a different set, Clear won the tournament. I mean, but that's also, of course, easy for us to say, right? Because the different format would have been 6 games, so maybe it would have changed things. Who knows? But
I like bonus points. I'm not sad they're here. I think I think if Setsuko had those bonus points, he deserves to win the tournament. But I think it's a really good point that like Clear had the most points on the final day. That's a big deal.
Okay. Agreed.
I mean, I definitely wasn't upset that Setsuko had like the bonus points, because like I barely got in, and like I definitely played like way worse on day 3. Like I was like the last one in, so I feel like that was definitely fair. Like he gets to win.
Yep, that makes sense. The average performance New question to the group.
Wait. I want to shout out one more underrated player before we move on.
Oh, that's right. I didn't ask you, Bryce, who you thought had the most underrated performance.
Yeah, I mean, I think the two shouts already are really good, to be honest. But I just want to make sure we talk about a Nico. Like, there were a few people who said it early on in chat. That was immediately where my brain went when you asked the question, because he played 0 sure shot games across the 12. He was playing a whole bunch of shit that everyone on the server told him it was garbage, and he made it work. And he did it with style. He went for fucking Mord 3 in a final day tournament lobby. Like, he did some really cool shit. He, like, Clear griefed him going for fucking Annie Mech. Clear, like, what the hell, man?
Yeah, why'd you grief?
Listen, if you want to grief like the recon players or whatever, man, you go right ahead. Like, I'm with you.
Oh, he will. You
see someone who's going for fucking Annie Mech in tournament, and you're like, all right, well, I kind of want to see this.
Okay. Well, I was playing Camille reroll, and then I golden ticket, and then Camille reroll. You play like the Annie too, just as like frontline anyways, and then I golden ticket, and I was getting Annies, so I was like just holding them. And then like Aniko on like Wolves, he starts pinging my bench because I had like 7 Annies, and then I'm just like chill, like I have golden ticket. And then after in Discord, I was like, I was just like paying like 10 gold to give like a Warmogs to my Annie.
I wish I screenshot it ready for this podcast. I would have added one more asset, but there's like 4 lines of text after that game where Iniko, who normally types in complete sentences, by the way, just types clear, is the worst TFT player ever. It's like he somehow went like full TFT accent at that point. You could just tell he was seething with rage. I love that shout though. Iniko, I think, played his heart out, and overall, I'm really, really happy about that top 8.
And look out for him in mid-set, by the way.
Or top 16.
Mid-set is moving. The patch is going to move the meta a lot more into the AP tree than we've been playing in for a long time. I think most players largely abandoned the AP tree. So he's got a big edge against the field in terms of reps on what's going to be S tier next patch.
All right, we'll see. I'm excited. I had 2 questions I want to ask. The first one is there anything that you regret about this tournament? Whether it was like a moment, a game, something you did with your preparation, maybe something you ate that morning. I don't know. Like just anything that you feel like you would change differently going to this tournament. We'll start with you, Wasian.
Okay, so I actually ended up going like I was in a really good spot to win the tournament, and then I ended up going 8-8 in my last 2 games. So I feel like you would actually expect me to have a lot of regrets about that, but honestly, those games were like very unplayable, and I mean, I think there's definitely some stuff I could have done to like get a bit of a higher placement, but I don't have any huge regrets about them. Maybe I wish I didn't like tilt as much. Maybe if I'd been a bit more like level-headed, I could have like gotten like a 6th or 7th, maybe gotten like a final lobby, but I was never going like top 4 or even first.
Have you reviewed those games with other players?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay. And they reached the same conclusion, essentially, like this is just a BG.
They said, yeah, you could probably go like 6th or something, pretty much, but it was like pretty unplayable.
Oh, makes sense.
It's fair enough. Clear.
Okay, before I answer the question, I just want to say, like with Aniko's Mech Annie, I'm pretty sure if he hits Annie 3, he is still going 7th because that Reflector Shield augment is so bad.
Okay, but here's the thing, Clear. Don't you want to know for sure? Like, I wish he hit it because I'm curious. Like, is this mad scientist? Because that seems bullshit.
Let him cook, man.
I want to know though. Like, I agree with Clear. My
Oh.
instinct is with Clear that he would have gone fucking 7th anyway. But I wish we had found out. It would have been fun.
Also, his any build, I don't think it's very good for like mech. Like he had like
Right,
zero
he had like a Warmogs, and
Yeah,
then
Warmogs
he
probably
and
or
then
something.
and then he has to like put the mech spat,
Yeah.
so like he really only has like 1 item.
Warmock's Gunblade mech. Okay, that does
I mean,
sound pretty bad.
Gunblade is the most important item with that augment. Like, you need that in order for the
Isn't
augment to
BT
work
a
at all.
little better just because of the shield? Oh, sorry, the percentage health shield because of how much stats you get.
I mean, it's not much of a difference because the biggest problem with that augment is it only does damage while the shield is
Yeah,
active,
you need to shield up.
and then you have like 60 AP from the mech, and the shield is like even when you 3-star, it's like 600 or something, and then like it'll last, it'll proc like 2 or 3 times late game, and the shield will just expire, and then you're doing like 0 damage.
Okay, that's fair. And you also kill 2 units to get there, so.
The theory is that like it's a war of attrition style, right? With the Gunblade, you maybe cast a second time to stay in the shield. like you'll cast a third time, right? If you get to 3-star a lot, and so that's just like a meaningful amount of fight up time where you're dealing a bunch of like rapid fire damage with your tank.
Yeah,
I don't know if it works.
If only the second Annie like removed the mana lock from Annie, but Riot would never let something like that broken be hitting live.
I've seen. Oh, yeah, never. I have seen Pitsy streak with it, like in a couple of my lobbies actually, where he's taken that augment from 2-1, built Gunblade for it, and like found a lot of tempo in the AP line. I don't know about 3-starring at mech though.
Yeah.
But I think it might be slightly better than you're giving it credit for, Clear.
I think the biggest thing is just like late game, it like basically does 0 damage because like, your shield never lasts.
Yeah, you just have to you basically use it as tempo.
Yeah, fair enough.
And like AP can have it hard if it gets there.
For people who don't know what I was talking about, I was referencing Cleansing Safeguard Lee Sin, because we have discovered that the Lee Sins remove the mana locks from each other, and that's why they can repeatedly cast so much, and why those 2 Lee Sin ones deal infinite damage to the rest of the lobby, and so on and so forth.
And by the way, Clear was the first person to realize that.
Yes, as far as I know. I think Clear said he saw someone else say that, and then he thought about it, and he observed it, and it was true.
Well, with the Cleansing Safeguard, I'm pretty sure I invented like the 2 Lee Sins, because I remember I had a game with like Cleansing Safeguard all the way back in like January, like late January, and then I was talking like with Implosion about it. I was like, I'm pretty sure this augment's like super broken, and then like you just play the 2 Lee Sins and like the heart back line. But like back then, I just sort of thought like the Lee Sins were shielding each other, and that like you could have like the other Lee Sin shield, and then your shield that was like expired, and like you could generate mana, and I thought it was just like a really good synergy. And then like a few days before that, like a few days before week 1 of Corrupted Cup, I think, someone on Discord like pinged me, and he was like talking about like how he's pretty sure like this is the mana bug, and like that's why it's broken. So I forget the name, but like shout out to them.
Shout out to the random guy that DM'd Clear. And then he took credit for how he invented it. Yep, exactly.
I mean, Clear inventing the line, that's the harder part. Can we agree?
That is the harder part,
Like,
yes.
How many people invent lines? Like, the one noticing it is impressive. Like, that's a good attention to detail thing. Like, I'm down to invent the line and not notice that it's broken because it's bugged.
All right. My final question before we go on to the next segment is, who was the player that griefed you the hardest this event? Who's like your arch nemesis, whether intentionally, like Clear taking the Annies from Iniko, or unintentionally just because like they just kept playing the same lines of who's like your arch nemesis from this event? We'll start with you, Clear.
Oh, maybe Wasian can go first, because I have to go through the lobbies and find someone.
Okay, Wasian.
I can go first. There's not like really anyone, but if I had to pick someone, it'd be probably Bunny Muffins, because in my game 6 of day 4, we both ended up playing the same Anima Squad spread shot line. And like he was just like,
and he hit really hard.
The exact same board as me, yeah. And he got like this items. And I couldn't find Shojin for like 3 stages or something.
Man, feels bad.
Bunny Muffins, shout out to him. He's mainly known as like like a noob content creator, like helping beginner intermediate players to like level up their game. Really put on a show. He did hit really hard though. Like Wasian said, he was contested Bane, was hitting it, kind of like what Setsuku did in that final lobby. And then also like he was like one of the few people got 3-star legendaries all weekend. Like that doesn't happen by accident. He's definitely a player that knows what he's doing, but also some pretty big high roll. So shout out to him. I think he had a hell of a weekend.
But I feel like he's been good across both tournaments this set, right? Hasn't he been?
Yeah, he had a pretty solid performance. I mean, this weekend was better than the last one, I believe, but I think it's like people really sleep on some of these other like educational streamers or content creators in general. So I just want to give a little nod.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Clear, we gave you enough time. Did you find somebody?
Okay, I'm pretty sure the player that griefed me the most is D-Graph. Like this guy, he just has like the most egregious stage 2 boards. And then like on 2-3, he just levels to 5, even though he has like the most egregious like full 2-star board. Like he's guaranteed to win on level 4. And he just goes level 5 and just does an extra 2 damage to me for fun.
That makes the list for Clear, by the way. If you just deal extra 2 damage at all on stage 2 for no reason, Clear will remember it for sure.
Oh, and then I had like a really good Renekton reroll game, and then like I thought it was chilling, and then like I look at his board and he just has like a Leona 3.
Yes. Shout out to Lemon Kiwi, by the way. She hosted the event. Great job, Jen. She was saying that it was the 3-star Leona from Buddy Muffins that was the highlight of that game. Really, really cool stuff. That was Corrupted Cup top 8. I'm glad we did a reflection. I want to take an opportunity to reflect, by the way, on our power rankings. This is something that we want to do with our review shows, which is how right were we, right? Like we flaunt ourselves as, well, we tout ourselves as being like TFT experts, Bryce, about like who are the power rank players. And when we look at the top 15, my criteria was how many of this top 15 made the top 16? And the answer was 7. We had Dish Soap, Setsuko, Clear, DQA, Kuramex, Iniko, and WasianIverson. Then it's cool that we had 2 of the players in ranked top 15 actually make it, and that means 8 players did not. Do you think that's a good hit rate, Bryce, or do you feel like that's we could do better on that front?
I think it's fine. And I think it looks fine if you go across the thing. Like, I think it's bad when it's like really inaccurate. Like, you have a bunch of people that are getting day 1 or something that are in the top 15. That shouldn't be happening. But TFT's, there's a lot of variance going on here. It's not that many games. So I don't think it was like off at all. Some of these names are like kind of set and forget names where it's like, you're kind of trolling if you don't put Soju on your top 15. You never know what form he's going to be in, quite frankly. Like, the number of times I've ranked this man like on a Monday, like 12th, like 12th or something, and then 5 days later for the tournament he's a fucking animal, and it's like, God, I would actually put him like 5th on my current list. Happens all the time. But it also happens this way all the time, where he like, you know, either he low rolled, right? There was that one game where it sounds like he got giga griefed. Maybe he wasn't informed. I don't know. I didn't watch the games, but like, you have to put him on the top 15. I think the fact that Clear and Waisian are both ranked actually says a decent bit about the panel. I think it means that at least some of the panel was paying attention to that. I'm actually curious who ranked them.
But I do have the best ballots. But before I reveal that, I want to ask Clear or Waisian, what do you guys think about these top 15? I know that now that you're part of the cool kids, right? You're like making the top 15, and now you're actually using that and being able to qualify for top 16. Do you feel like these power rankings are accurately reflected, or do you feel like there's accusations that there's like just a little bit too much like nepotism or like old boys clubs just because people are like ranking their friends all the time? What do you think, Waisian?
I mean, it's definitely a little bit of a popularity contest, but at the same time, it's really hard to rank some of these players, like myself included, I think, because like if you haven't watched them or they don't stream, like, you can't really tell how good they are, like, just based off, like, maybe, like, their LP or their little chest or something. Like, you actually have to watch someone to know how good they are, or talk to them or something. So, I mean, I think it's pretty fair. I think the people are just ranking the people that they're most familiar with and comfortable with ranking. So,
Okay.
I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but it's probably not completely accurate.
I mean, that's probably their power rankings, not official rankings. But I mean,
Yeah.
I do appreciate that. Thank you for defending us there. Clear. What do you think, man?
I mean, I think it's like really hard to be able to like accurately power rank people because there's like 64 players, and then like you're ranking like 15 of them, and then like a lot of these players like you've literally never heard of. Maybe like you play in like different hours of the day, and like you've never even queued into them once. So like it's definitely hard to like have a good read on some of the other players. And then I think, you know, there's like some like nepotism or like just like picking your friends, but it's also like a lot of these players are like, were sort of like shoo-ins, even if they're like not super good on the patch, they have like a lot of tournament experience, which I think like you definitely have to value like really highly. Like having good mental in tournament is like can matter like actually like a lot more than just like being good on that specific patch. And then there's like some other factors that like I feel like some people like maybe not like don't take into account. Like for example, Broccoli, he was ranked really high, but I feel like maybe if other people like knew like he didn't have that much time to play, that much time to prep, like maybe they rank him lower, like even though he's like a really good player.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like people like Broccoli was like they just look at the LP and like, oh, he has to know the patch really well. He's rank 1. Like surely he has a really good beat for this tournament specifically. But I think you bring up really good points. Also, replays in chat. I feel like he's the one player we didn't mention. A great top 4. It just feels like we should acknowledge people who are able to make those deep runs and we're in contention. It's a great run, and I hope that we get to learn more about you because I feel like I don't know anything really about replay. I see you in lobbies. I see you in ladder, and now I see you competing. So keep it up, man. We'll hopefully see you pop off again at mid-set and beyond.
Yeah, I mean, I hope I get a chance to watch him play. right? Like
Right.
I love like up and coming players. Like some of the most fun TFT you get to watch is the people who no one are watching. Like actually, both of you guys, you're both on that list
Yes,
for me.
exactly.
Like I not watched either of you play a game of TFT until like Clear. I don't remember, a little bit before for sure. Like I definitely watched you play Varus. I watched you some last set. Wasian, I watched you for the first time like a tournament ago, right? Like I feel like I just got exposed to your play. You're both really good. You're both really, really good. I mean, the data backs you both being really good up. By the way, I don't know if you pay attention to like the macro stuff, but Clear, your AVP across 25 tournament games this set is 3.6. You have a 60% top 4 average, and you've won 28% of your games. That's really good. You go 8th a lot, but like,
yeah,
but like we all know that. That's fine. It's part of the trade-off. And then Wasian, you're slightly worse AVP at 3.72, but you're more consistent. You have 64% top 4 and 36% win. And you actually you actually are more extreme. You have even higher
first to 8th percentage.
Well, actually no, you guys both go 8th. It looks like basically roughly the same amount actually now that I look at it. But like, which is a lot, but you also win a lot of games. So I don't know. I mean, I think you're both, you passed the eye test too. I think you're both really good. Yeah.
Oh, I've been going around saying I'm the second best player in North America because I got second and then Corrupted Cup, and then I'm also second in qualifier points.
I see. Who's the first? Who's the first? Who are you behind?
Oh, it's definitely Setsuko. Like I've always like really respected Setsuko. I mean, I don't want to go like on a tangent, but I feel like Setsuko is one of the players like I can see him like playing any line or doing like anything. Whereas like other players, maybe like Robin, I feel like there's like certain things in the game he's just not going to do that makes him like a little more predictable. Like Setsuko, like I'm definitely like really scared of him because like he's capable of anything for sure.
Interesting. Well, just as a sneak peek, later this episode, we did ask Clear and Waisian to submit their top 15. We'll reveal that. That's a segment I believe right after this. But I wanted to very quickly give a shout out to who had the best ballots, because most people got 6 to 7 names correct, but there were 2 people who got 8 names correct on their 15. And it's the panels that I think that people don't really recognize that often. So shout out to Gangly.
Nice.
Nick Pasquale, who had 8 people correct, thanks to not picking Ripple Overdrive, Wasian, and Clear. Usually people had 2 out of that 3. And that's Admirable, who's also a caster and our editor for this podcast. He got Malala in on his top 15, and Malala had a great run. You're talking about underrated runs. My pick would have been Malala. I mean, our previous episode of the podcast, we were saying which version of Malala can show up. Is it the one that we saw potential like a set 2 sets ago, or is it the one that can get lost in patches and not really put things together in time for the tournament? Malala really showed up this past weekend, so congrats to Admirable. He was the one who recognized that. I'm not taking credit for that. Really good stuff.
I love it. That's awesome. And Malala we talk a lot about the up and coming players, and some of them like really pan out and some of them struggle and eventually get there, right? Asa had like a pretty strong rise, but he struggled a little bit this set. Rain is struggling a lot this set. Like Goobums was a monster a couple sets ago. It's not that he's been bad the last couple sets, but he's not anywhere near the scary form he was when he was at Worlds, and hasn't been for some time, if we're being honest. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like Malala is one of those names as well. He was like starting to really rise, and we haven't talked about him as much lately, but he can be a beast when it's clicking.
Yep, I hope that.
I just remember with Malala, set 7 regionals. I remember when everyone was playing in-houses, I just remember this guy playing ARAMs every day. And then we go into regionals. We go into regionals, and then my read was that Seraphine was super bad, but then like I just kept playing Seraphine every game, even though I knew it was super bad. And then Malala kept being in my lobbies, and he was just contesting Seraphine. And I was like, this line is not good. And like, if you didn't play so many ARAMs, you would know this line was not good, and then you would not have contested me.
I assume this did not go well for either of you.
Clear, I didn't even ask him who greets his set 7 tournaments, and Clear's out here talking about who greets his set 7 tournaments.
I love it.
All right. Well, on that note, let's bring up the lists, shall we? So, we usually have people who come on the preview episodes to show whether or not, or to show their top 15 and whether or not they're correct about it. Now we're going to have Clear go first here and reveal his top 15. And so let's pull it up here. So he goes Setsuko at 1, Dish Soup at 2, Clear at 3, a little
Nice.
inconsistent with what he actually just told us. He told us he was second best on the server. Then Kurum, Wasian at 5, Robin, Sox, Iniko, Broccoli, DQA, Soju, Ripple at 12, Kyvix, Minhee, and Pressevent. So I want to first get reactions from everybody else here. So let's start with Wasian. When you look at this list, is Clear third? Like, Clear at third? What does that look right to you, man?
I don't think it looks like too wrong to me. I mean, he knows himself better than anyone else, and I mean, at this tournament, you could for sure make an argument that he was like one of the top 3 players. I mean, he did finish second. So I mean, I guess it kind of depends on what you're ranking him off of. Like, is it how good he was this tournament, how good he's going to be going into mid set, that kind of thing.
That's a good question, actually. So Clear, what is his top 15? Is it the current form? Is it their performance thus far?
I mean, I do power rankings for fun, going into like each tournament, just to, like sort of like scout like the competition, and just like get a good read myself. And then the way I usually score is just like how scared I am of like these people being in my lobbies. Like Setsuko is like the person I want to avoid most in my lobbies, and then after that is Dish Soap, and then after that would be Kurum. So like I'm just sort of like thinking about like what players I really want to avoid being in my lobbies.
Okay, that makes sense to me. Sorry about the typo on Kyvix's name. I think what's really interesting. Well, one, the fact that you and Wasian are both top 5 here, but it still ultimately looks kind of similar to the way we would rank it, Bryce, anyways. So it just feels like Clear's like, hey, you're just forgetting about how big my ceiling or how tall my ceiling is and how I think I can keep up with the best.
Yeah, there's a couple of things that really jump out to me on this list. One of those is Clear and Wasian being in like the A or S tier, right? Like a lot of people, you're on lists, but you're like more in the 10 to 15 range, depending on how they evaluate you. And there's some exceptions to that, like Setsuko has rated Wasian really, really highly, for example, and has for a while, right? He was like the first person to put you on his list, but he put you like really high on his list when he did it. It was like you immediately cracked the top 10, which like never happens, by the way. And then Clear, same thing with you. You've got like a few people, like Dan is one of them for sure. I think he's like big into recognizing. Admirable's another one. I think he really values the way you think about the game. You know what's interesting, Clear, is actually Gangly and Appies are the other 2 people who rage really highly coming in this event. You kind of have some of the like independent thinkers. Like that's 4 different people who are all thinking about the game very differently and who all really value what you're bringing to the table, which is impressive. So there's very much a chance that the bias we were talking about earlier is why you guys are kept out of the like upper echelons. Like time will tell. I want to watch more of how you guys play. For now, right? And then the other outlier is the end of your list. You have Ripple, Kyvix, and Stellar. All 3 of those players do not make most people's top 15. Some people have them, like one of them, but very few people have. I don't think anyone else has 2. No one has 3. And in order to drop who you dropped from like the consensus ballots for those 3 spots are Asa, Goobums, and Solus. So I think it's notable that you think Ripple, Kyvix, and Stellar are all better than Asa, Goobums, and Solus. I'm curious if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, it's well, first I want to touch on Kyvix. I feel like Kyvix, like watching him, is actually like taught me a lot about how like to approach tournaments. Like for the longest time, I've like, you know, I always talk about how like certain lines are like unplayable and like you should like never be playing these lines. But then like Kyvix is sort of a player who's like willing to sort of explore these lines. And then I sort of like started thinking and like I sort of wanted to like play a little more like Kyvix. I remember in Corrupted Cup I had like a 6 defender mech set game with like Belbeth carry, and like that sort of like that style I sort of like borrowed from Kyvix because I feel like tournaments is sort of like a different meta, and that like certain things like actually can work in tournament, even though like you look at the stats and like they're quite bad. And then the other thing is just based on my experience with like mid set, it's the second biggest like tourney in the set, but I feel like just based on my experience, there's actually like very little pressure to like do well in mid set because like with the other tournaments, if you bomb out Corrupted Cup, that like really hurts your placements for regionals. Like with mid set, like if you don't do well, like it doesn't affect like sure top 4 gets you into regionals, but like if you go like dead last, it doesn't like affect you know, your ability to go into like regionals, like your ability to play in like other tournaments. So I feel like there's like a lot less stress, and like a lot of these like newer players, who are like not super used to tournaments, who might have like tournament nerves or like anxiety. It's like an opportunity for them to be able to like showcase their skills without like too much pressure about having to worry about the future.
That's so interesting because that's like the opposite of what's supposed to feel
that's
like.
the opposite
It's
of what other people have told me as well.
Well, I think the tournament is supposed to feel like the second highest stakes tournament of the set, right? Like you can't match regionals because you can only have one worlds, and so like you can't compete with that. But like mid-set is supposed to be the next rung down, so it's interesting that you think players feel a lot less pressure for it.
Yeah, Kurum last night was talking about how like mid-set means everything to him right now because it's a spot of worlds on the line. He's like, that's the juice. I don't care about like yes, Defender Cup's important to do well, Corrupted Cup's important to do well, but like I care about mid-set. And he's like, I want the patch to come out so I can start grinding Infinite on it. And out here, Clear's telling us the opposite. He's like, he feels like he's kind of relaxing a little bit compared to the other cups. So I think that's really interesting.
It's worth noting, by the way, that like our preview show for mid-set, we had a little bit of trouble figuring out our guests, which never happens to us. But there were multiple people who were like, I kind of want to be locked into mid-set prep. I don't want to do a podcast on Thursday.
Yeah, they want to be prepping.
Yeah, which never happens to us. So there's at least some percentage of the field that is taking this tournament very seriously, for sure.
I mean, you definitely have to take the tournament super seriously. It's like a super important tournament, but I just think that like the biggest thing is like the biggest prize is just going first, and I actually think that like relieves like a lot of pressure. If you go like dead last or like if you go like 10th, there's actually like no diff.
Yeah, no diff.
So like that I feel like that takes out like a lot of pressure. You can just play the game without having to like sweat your placements. You don't have to worry about like, oh, I don't want to go dead last. I want to go like maybe like 20th for like qualifier points or something. But like you can just like have no pressure, like play first or eighth if you have to, and then like just look at that first place only, and then like you don't have to worry about the rest.
I just want to say one little anecdote before we get to Wasian's list, which is I messaged Clear, like I invite him to the podcast and we talk about like get your cams, this is what we're going to be doing. 3 hours later, I wrote, have your top 15 NA list ready to go for tomorrow. And within 15 seconds, Clear immediately pasted his top 15. And I was like, what, you just have this already like on deck? And he's like, yeah, I just make these like for fun before every tournament. So he just had it on cue ready to go, like as if he was expecting me to message them. That's how much thought he's putting into this.
Honestly, Clear, you should be on the panel, man. That's like it's actually a lot more work than it looks like. If you want to vote in the future, like I'm down. Dan, you want to say Adam? Like this is a good thoughtful ballot. Like that should always be in the mix.
Let's bring up Wasian's ballot. I'm more than down to talk about it afterwards. I think we can definitely make space for Clear. And plus, you'll probably submit on time, which is the number one. The number one requirement.
The last thing I have to do every Monday morning is go on Soju's stream and be like, "Hey Soju, I need like at Soju, I need the power rankings to submit for graphics." And he's like, "Oh, okay, I got you."
Yeah, he does it like on stream,
like live on stream after the game, and, like does it during stage one.
Great publicity.
Yeah.
All right, so Wasian, let's walk it down. So you have Setsuko and Disho flipped 1-2 there. Robin at 3, Kurum and Eco, then yourself and Clear. So it seems like this first column is almost exactly the same. You guys almost agree exactly on the same first 7 players. You have Malala at 9 and Little Top at 13, and then Basso Skills at 15. So talk about these 3 players in particular: Malala, Little Top, and Basso Skills.
Oh yeah, just before I do that, like I should probably say like I was only ranking. I saw Clear's list first, right? I know it's the only ranked players at mid-set, so I just only wanted to rank players at mid-set.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the way you could think about it is like, if I had to guess what my ballot would be going into mid-set, this is the ballot I would put out.
Ah, okay.
So yeah, to talk about a little bit about these players. I mean, first of all, Malala had like an insane performance, right? Like he played through day 1 and he came top 5, and I mean, like he played well like every single day. I think he had a really good meta read. I think he was ready to play like some pretty degen comps like Yumi, but only like when given the spot for it. Mm-hmm. And I think he's really good on like this like sure shot like 80 flex line. And I think that's probably like the number 1 line going into the tournament.
Okay.
Little Top was a player who I didn't really think I was gonna put on here, but I watched like a couple games from pretty much every player that's going to mid-set that I was like curious about or not sure where to rank, and I thought Little Top played really well this tournament. There was okay, the funny thing is like the games I watched he went bot 4, but I was actually like very impressed. Like there was one game like his spot was like super 8th. He was like high in shopping, like 20 HP on 4-1. And like so he had to like send it on 7 with iron shopping, which like of course you don't want to do. And like he was like the only player in the entire tournament that actually was like holding like this like set like mech out in his roll down. And like he ended up finding set 2, and like by playing the set 2 frontline, he was able to go like 4th or 5th when like otherwise he would have been guaranteed 8th. I'm pretty sure most people would have just only held like Echo and Sedge and stuff, and they would have just gone 8th.
Interesting.
So I was like pretty impressed by his play. And Boss's skills, like I'll be honest, like Boss's skills, Minhee, Malala, like those guys are my friends. So like I've watched them play a lot more. I talk to them about TFT like pretty much every day. So I mean I just know what they're capable of, and I know that they're really good players. Whereas a lot of these other players, I don't really know what they're capable of. So it's just a lot easier for me to rank these types of players.
Totally fair. I'll go next here. I think Lil Top has a really big case for being one of the most improved players of the set. The first thing is when this guy wants to climb, he's climbing, and that's a really strong sign, or rather, a really big leading indicator of a strong player. Both snapshots where he just needed to climb, he was like in top 10. If he didn't send it down and it was also on vacation, so he had to play on mobile, he would have been top 32 for both of the snapshots. But I think that's a really good sign to show really strong improvement. And then exactly what you said, Wasian, which is I'm more impressed by some of the spots where he wasn't high rolling, because whenever I queue in the Lil Top, it always feels like he's high rolling, but that also means that he probably is a good player if he's always high rolling. In my view, it just means that he might be better. So that's my anecdote. And then Bosso skills, I was really impressed with just listening to his thoughts when he joined a co-stream over the weekend. He just had really good ideas. When he contributed really provocative thoughts that maybe even stopped talking, which is really hard because I love talking a lot, especially if I'm co-streaming. So I want to give shout outs to those two players as well.
Yeah, I think Bosso's. I haven't gotten to watch Little Top, so I don't have an opinion there. I think Bosso's skills is really good. My last 2 fantasy drafts, I think I grabbed Bosso's skills as my last pick, the last one, and I grabbed Wasian this time. And it was like really clear to me. Like, actually, to be honest,
They were some of your best picks.
I built my entire draft strategy around the fact that I felt like you guys were undervalued. Just to like, I'll just say it out loud. Like, people can steal my tech. I don't care. I'll like find another edge. But like, you guys, basically, my argument was, you guys I can get for like $1, $5. So like you guys are way too good relative to your value. So if I can get that value at the end, why would I ever spend $15 for a player? I'm just gonna like last draft I spent like 33 on 3 different guys basically, and then I was like I'm just gonna grab them at the end because it's you guys are way too good at value. You're like every bit as likely to make the top 16 as some of the people that are going for a lot more money. So yeah, I don't know. I think you guys are really good. It's hard for me to get a perception, to be honest, on your relative strengths and weaknesses. Do you have any strong opinions there? Like within your guys' group of players, do you feel like there's like a tier list emerging of like who you consider the S tier? Do you feel like it varies a lot by the patch? Like what's the vibe like in terms of how you all think about each other's play?
I think it varies based on patch. I think some of us actually play like very differently. I think I play pretty similarly to Malala. But I think Bosso Skills plays like extremely different from us. Like, I guess a good example is like Malala and I are like we're very greedy for like best in slot items, and we'll always try and like go fast aid and that kind of stuff. And meanwhile, Bosso Skills like tends to like slam items pretty liberally, roll pretty aggressively. So it's like different playstyle, and I mean, different playstyles can work better on different patches. So I'd say it's very dependent on the patch.
Interesting. I know
if you had to pick. Wait, really fast. One quick question, Dan. If you had to pick one of you to go to Worlds this set, like you're like, give us the highest chance of winning Worlds, who do you think it is? You can include yourself in that.
Oh, for me?
Yeah.
Oh, well, of course I'm gonna go with myself.
Okay. Are you the same answer?
Yeah, I'd go with myself. I feel like with checkmate format, I feel like I definitely have like an edge where I'm able to like play the lines I'll like win out in like top 2 or top 1.
Ooh, that's a good segue. That's a good
Makes sense.
segue. Because we're about to go into agree, which is we just throw a take in TFT and ask the panel if they agree. And I'm gonna go with this one first, which is the new penultimate lobby into final lobby system should be the primary format for TFT tournaments instead of formats like checkmate. Because I feel like people have been very warmly receiving the new format because of how close some of the last lobbies have been, and it feels like it is competitive and it's not checkmate. So I wanted to ask people if they agree. Let's start with Wasian.
Oh, I mean, I agree for sure. I really dislike the old format. That was like in Dragon Cup. That was like my main takeaway from day 4, because it's like you have only 5 games to get into the top 25%. It feels like very, very luck based, whereas like this is like just trying to get into the top 50% feels a lot more achievable. So I feel like this kind of lowers the variance. It's like more skillful, and I like it more.
Interesting. Okay, clear.
I think like Checkmate and like this like top 16 into top 8, they're like very different formats. Like Checkmate is like almost exclusively used for like final lobbies and like determining a winner of a specific tournament. But I definitely think this format is like a really big improvement over the old format, where you just go from like 32 to 8 players in like 5 games. Like I remember like one of the biggest gripes I had with like the old format was like in Dragon Cup. I had like a really good day 3, and then going into day 4, I ended up 13th. And then it's like you go 13th, which is like a pretty like relatively like a pretty good showing. But then like you don't make the top 8, and like that just makes you feel like the tournament wasn't a success, or like you sort of like failed that tournament, even though like 13th like really should like it should be something like you're able to like be proud of. And I think like showcasing the top 16 more just gives like people a chance to like be like more proud of like the tournament showing or like the tournament success.
That makes sense to me. I'll follow up and just agree with that as well, because I think it also makes more sense to the core of what TFT is, which is a lot of times you're just trying to beat out half the field. And then if you beat out half the field, like you're going from top, you go to top 4, you try to cut that in half again. Like, can I make top 2 from there? And if you couldn't go for the 1v1, you go for that first place. I feel like that's how most good players are approaching like most of their games. And that feels like that's replicating the tournament experience with this system. So I like it a lot. I like it way more than I thought I would. So I tip my cap to Natures. I feel like we complain so much about how bad formats are in TFT for years. It's time that we recognize when a good one's in front of us. I really like what we got. Not to say it's perfect. I'm sure we can find other ways to tweak it, but so far it's a thumbs up from me.
Yeah, Nate.
Then,
Sorry, go for
yeah,
it.
and then just one more thing. I think the way it cuts, you only go to top 8 in the last game. I think it makes it way more hype because the scores are like way closer together. With the old format, you would cut to top 8 after 5 games, and then like the first place player, maybe they go first, and then by then they have like a 5 or 6 point lead, and like they're basically guaranteed in. Like you watch the final game, they go 6th, and they're like, oh, he went 6th, he's already guaranteed to win. And then like you have to watch the rest of the game, but like it's like there's no hype anymore.
Yep, agreed. Bryce?
Yeah. I mean, this is an easy agree for me. I think Natures deserves a lot of credit. Echo everything Dan said. I think that they've done a good job of taking feedback over the course of multiple sets of tournaments, and like it feels like they're slowly but surely. Like I love the bonus points too. I think that's like a really huge part of what makes the days going on feel better. So that you can't just like have a high roll single day. Like if you had a really good previous day, that helps a little bit. I like that a lot. I think he's optimized. I'm curious if we have like more serious innovation to do with TFT competitive formats. Like I don't know what how we're gonna push the bounds there, but I do feel like there's probably some other systems that we just haven't even tried that are way different. But within this kind of scheme, I think this really works. And like, yeah, the final lobby was so fucking hype. It was way more hype than a checkmate lobby, by the way. Like having like a group of players all who like really earned it and are all there because they like basically perform within a few points of each other over the course of all of those games creates a way more hype finish than like just who happens to be the person that wins this game. That feels so bad, man. Like we haven't even had like the egregious results yet where it's like someone wins off of checkmate, like wins worlds off of checkmate in a way that feels really bad. Like we've actually been lucky.
Like 10 points behind or something like that.
Yeah,
for whatever reason.
that honestly by stats probably should have happened by now.
Yeah,
but like we've been lucky that it didn't, so thank God, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And deserving winners too.
I mean, I remember, I think one of like the Japan qualifiers, someone went like 1-1, 2-2, and then someone else had like average performances, and then they just won the 4th game, and then like then the person who went like 1-1, 2-2 had like 10 points above the other guy, but like he just doesn't get to win.
God.
Oh God. All right. Well, looks like we all agree. Chat agrees. 95% in agreement. So not a very controversial one. How about this one for a controversial? Despite a few problems, tournament patches have been quite good so far in Set 8 in North America, because we can't really speak to the patch status of other regions. Bryce, let's start with you.
I agree. I know that we constantly focus on the negative in the community as it relates to balance. So, like, I am not saying there weren't issues. There were definitely issues here, right? They were big issues with some of the aspects of the tournament meta. I have seen worse. I've seen a lot worse of tournament metas. There was real opportunity for skill expression within this patch. I think the fact that like someone like Nico succeeded at the level that he did shows that like just in a vacuum. It's like you can't say it's just a Samira lottery if like this guy can just go in and just not play this. Like I promise there were spots where he should have played Samira, you guys.
Probably. Yeah.
I promise there were, and he didn't, and that reduces his average placement in that game. But he just did it to prove a point. So I do think there was real skill to be expressed this patch. I think a lot of the players who had a better beat on the meta and who adjusted more to the structural changes in the game performed better. Maybe that's not the kind of skill you want to test for, but at least it's something. I've seen some pretty RNG patches.
Yeah.
Set 7, you guys. I think I hated every tournament.
The
I think
Siphon soy
every
one?
set
God.
7 tournament meta I think was worse than every set 8 tournament meta. I cannot think of a single set 7 tournament meta. Regionals was the best, and I really still did not enjoy that patch at all.
Okay.
So yeah, I feel like it's definitely better. I don't know what we're comparing it to if we're gonna like shit on the metas of set 8 tournaments.
All right. Clear?
Wait, let me reread the question again. Yeah, I mean, I think for Corrupted Cup, I was like bashing the patch a lot, but I actually like after playing Corrupted Cup and actually thinking about it some more, I feel like Samira was like not nearly as big of like an issue as I thought it was, because I feel like Samira, like everyone talks about Samira, but I feel like if you wanted to have success in the tournament, like the moment you have an out that like you can play something other than Samira, you're supposed to take it. And like if you're like intentionally angling Samira, a lot of the time like you just were putting yourself in like really bad spots. So like going into the tournament, I thought Samira would be like a really big problem, and it wasn't. But I think the biggest problem was cleansing safeguard. Like I'm pretty sure if you check the stats over the tournament, it averages like probably like a 3 or like a 3.1, and like I mean like we'll never know because like so many other things would change. But I feel like if I never like made the guide or like released the tech, I feel like I might have won Corrupted Cup.
Yeah, yeah, that was really good tech you leaked immediately.
Okay, because
You leaked it like the day before day 1 of the tournament, where Bryce and I were competing. We're like, man, come on, dude.
Yeah,
Okay.
Dan and I knew the fucking tech clear. Like you know how much edge you threw for us by leaking that. Like the day you wrote the like, oh, here's the dummy version. Like, oh, everyone's like, oh shit, okay, I could do that, and they did in the tournament.
okay, like I released it because I was so sure if I did it, Mordog would have to be patched, and then like I wouldn't have to play against this in Corrupted Cup, and then he just never touches it, and then like he never gives me a cleansing safeguard game in Corrupted Cup.
Yeah. You overestimated the North American tournament field, my friend, because you should know better. The TFT players can't read. So like, yeah, it did hurt that you leaked the tech. There were a bunch of people who did know, and it was way harder to find. But a lot of what it was that it was more contested. You had people out there who had no freaking clue. Pressevent like played it on the first weekend. He had no idea on day 2 that you played multiple Lee sets. He kind of figured it out as he went. Basically, he's like, oh, I think maybe this is important. And then immediately afterwards, he just starts winning every fight. It's like, yeah, that is important. We agree.
All right, Wasian.
I guess I'm more on the side of agree than disagree. I'd say like I personally don't find this patch to be that fun, but that doesn't mean that I think it's like a really bad patch. I think there's a lot of viable things, but I'm just kind of bored of like Samira meta, I guess. I want to play some like AP Flex. And the Defender Cup patch, I mean, that was like the mech patch. And I think a lot of people really hated that patch, but personally, I actually enjoyed it a lot. I thought that patch was like super fun. So I guess I would say agree.
Okay. I disagree because I think TFT could be better. Like, I don't think that they've been that good, but I think that they're underrated, right? Because it's exactly what Clear said. A lot of people going into these tournaments were saying it was the worst patch, or like, you know, maybe they weren't using words like extreme, that as extreme as worse, but they were saying awful patch, it's a terrible meta, etc. Like, I can't stand to say the game. It's like, actually, it's like pretty solid, right? There was, I think Defender Cup actually was pretty underrated in terms of tournament metas in particular compared to Corrupted Cup. But I do understand why people have their gripes. I think imbalances are almost always going to exist in TFT. It's going to be very rare that we get a truly balanced meta, and I feel like it was pretty solid. A lot of room for improvement. Looks like chat kind of like ends up being more split here, 60% going with disagree, but I'm glad that a lot of people actually were able to analyze it and look and say, hey, maybe actually it wasn't so bad. Okay, the
Yeah,
last degree. Oh, go ahead, Bryce.
Go. Actually, keep going.
I would say the last degree could be a quick one, or maybe we get stun locked here for a long time. I'm gonna go to Clear for the first answer here. The best thing Riot Games could do to fix balance issues is hire Clear TFT.
Okay, my immediate reaction is that I feel like one of the best changes they've made recently was giving gold to Tome. So like now, if you take like 2-1 Prismatic Tome, like it actually feels good, like it's actually playable instead of being like a guaranteed 8. Like before they did that, if you took Prismatic Tome, and like a lot of people did, because like Dogma was like surprisingly popular, had like an average placement of like 5.5, you were like legit guaranteed top 4, and like that was one of the biggest things that like I really wanted. I feel like they should have added gold to like a lot more of these augments that were underperforming to like make them feel like a lot better and like a lot more takeable. So I think that was like one of the biggest ideas I really wanted to change about the game, and like they implemented part of that, and I feel like it's been really good for the game.
Okay, so
Wait,
I can't
do you
tell if you're
agree or
agreeing
disagree?
because you're basically saying that Riot took one of your ideas for balance, and then you didn't say anything.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure if they take like all my ideas, they would all work out, like just as well as like these changes have, and like the game would actually like be a lot better.
Great. Most humble player in North America, by the way.
I would love the list of like Clear's like next section or newsletters like Clear's 5 requests for the game of TFT.
I'm really curious about Bryce and Wasian's perspective. I went to Clear first because I know exactly what he's going to say, which was something along the lines of course, / I have already been giving them ideas and they've implemented some. Let's go to Wasian.
Oh, unfortunately, I think this one's a pretty easy disagree for me. I think Clear tends to be very hyperbolic, and he also like changes his opinions like every single day. Like one day he'll say like, "Man, like Samira is like so broken, like they actually need to nerf this shit to the ground," and then tomorrow he's like, "Man, the Samira unit is like actually unclickable. Like you cannot play it from any spot." And then like he comes back a third day and changes his opinion again. Like there would actually need to be a new balance patch like every single day if he was on the balance team. So I think I have to disagree.
All right, some peek behind the curtain, Bryce.
I love it. I mean, it's such a hard, like, how do you agree or disagree with the statement? The best thing they could do to fix balance, like, I'm sure there's better things. I don't know. I like if the question were having Clear on the TFT balance team would add value, I think the answer is yes. Like, I think having the perspective of someone that thinks about the game the way he does is really helpful and feels different from potentially what other people have on the team. And I agree. The thing is, you need a filter, but like Boss of Skills is saying, like Wasian is saying, if you're like taking all of his ideas, that's probably really bad. But if you're filtering it well and taking the really good ones, like this, adding gold to some of these augments, spouts them out, I think he would probably, like, if you found the however many nuggets he has and use them, I think that would be really smart. I think he could improve the game materially.
I love it. Bryce is taking the technicality of it. It's the best thing. Probably not, but it might be something productive. I just want to say
it's the lawyer answer. How about
I know. I appreciate that. I want to say that I think it was today or yesterday where Clear said, "If I win Worlds, Mort, will you consider hiring me to the dev team?" And Mort said, "Maybe." It's not off the table. So Clear, you know what to do.
Oh, he said he would, like, at the very least, like, interview me, I think.
Love it.
That's what he said.
Go win Worlds.
All right. Well, 28% agree, and that's all that matters, right? Clear. Who cares about the 72%? That's
Okay.
disagree.
Okay, I feel like the biggest thing is, like, if they hire me to the balance team and, like, people start, like, flaming my balance decisions, I can, like, rank check them. It's like like with Mortdog, like some of these players are actually like better players than Mortdog. It's like you can't just like rank check them and like, oh, you're diamond, then like I probably like know better than you. But like I can actually like rank check some of these people and be like just based on rank, like I'm a higher rank than you, so like therefore I know better than you.
I mean, okay, look, on
Please
the one
do
hand,
that in the comment section too.
oh
Man.
God. On the one hand, I totally get where you're coming from because it does like sort of matter. Like Dan and I lament the fact that we feel like we have to climb because if we can't cast for real, and it feels like if we can't criticize play at all, and we can't criticize play at all if we're like really low LP, even if we were right, it wouldn't matter. People can't take you seriously. But I will say that Mortog for being like lower LP than all these challenger motherfuckers is like has way better instincts for the game. If you get to give one person,
Yes,
you give
agreed.
one person to the keys to the fucking kingdom, you want it to be Mortog. You don't want it to be someone with the highest LP on the server.
I will say shout out to Kent. I think he also demonstrated
sure.
a lot of good instincts as well, and he also has made really big LP pushes in the past. Wow, that was really fun. Alas, we will move on to basically the closing of the show. One thing we want to do is update y'all on fantasy. That's right, Bryce has been dreading it all day. It's a scoreboard check. So Defender Cup, yes, Bryce beat me by 7 points. It was a really close affair. We won't talk about the Iniko debacle. But for Corrupted Cup, the king has reclaimed his throne. 284, 40 points clear of Kurum X, who Kurum also had a really good push. Some of whoever Kurum picked that were doing well was doing really well, but he also picked some duds. Bryce, kind of close behind him, like 20 points, 223. But Soulless, the new patented Soulless 90, did not work out. He is in Iniko tier, 165. But yet, this probably perhaps shows you just how badly Iniko drafted. Because Soulless drafted himself and nuked his budget for $90 and picked Taco Bell Wi-Fi first pick and still somehow outperformed Iniko on the previous draft. I don't even know how that's possible, Bryce.
Yeah, that's actually that's going to be all timer. The best thing that came out of Soulless doing this, because kind of trolled the draft in a pretty material way, is that now we get to hold it over Nico for all time.
Yes.
I'm never going to let him forget that Soulless paid $90 for himself and still beat Nico in fantasy the next tournament.
Oh my god.
I mean, look, I think that these results came down to a couple of things. I think you wound up being very right about Setsuko, obviously. Like, spending $31 for Setsuko at the time felt kind of crazy to me. He had one good tournament, but he had coming off material tournament struggles for all the previous set, and he was like full running it down on ladder.
He was
down like 700 LP or something. It was like crazy how much LP he lost like right before we did these rankings. So I just or right before we did this draft. So like I just couldn't bid that much on him. And then I don't know. I mean, the two picks
DQA, my man.
DQA popped off. I really liked DQA this event too, but it just the way the draft played out, I just did not. Same thing with Nico. I really liked Nico. I liked your team a lot. I said to you right after, I was like, I think your team's really good. My team, honestly, the two people who I busted on because I got 3 through the final day, Broccoli and Robin. I didn't realize Robin was out of form. That was a huge mistake. I was like prioritizing getting Robin on my team because I thought same thing Wasian said earlier, like how he always makes it. Like he's always there.
That is true.
Yeah, but I can't believe I had Robin on my team the one time this man didn't make it to the final day. Like, what the fuck? But yeah, I mean, that's CFT.
All right. Clear, Wage, and I look forward to eventually drafting and beating you in a future episode. Alas, that brings us to the conclusion of this podcast. There's one thing we will announce, which is our next episode. Our next episode, we have our guests lined up. It's going to be the mid-set finale preview featuring Robin Songs and DQA. That's right. We'll get DQA and Robin drafting against us. We'll even get a little bit of that trash talk because we drafted Robin last time. We'll see if he can draft himself, or even we'll let him have it. It'll be really fun. And of course, that'll be happening next week, March 2nd at 6 p.m. Pacific, right here on this channel. And that's it. We're done with the reviewed episode. Ended up being right on time. Let's get some final words and send everyone off to their merry way. WasianIverson, why don't you start us off?
Oh yeah, I mean, thanks so much for having me. I'm a long-time viewer, so it was really cool to be on, and I had a lot of fun.
That's right. You have a lot of fans in chat, man. I've never seen so many pastas about our first-time guest.
Oh, I think it's like the same 4 fans posting the same thing. But
your friends showed up for you guys. That's good.
Yeah.
A lot of support.
It's like Showtime and his 3 alts, basically. Clear. Any final words?
Yeah, it was really fun being on the show. Like I've always like watched the shows and like chatting like during the shows was a lot of fun. But I think like being on the show was definitely like a different experience. That was also incredibly fun.
Okay, great. I'm glad you did. Is there anything you want to ask any local people in Toronto and TFT?
Okay. Yeah, so the second best player in North America, Clear TFT at the moment, is looking quite homeless for fall 2023. So I'm going back to school fall 2023, and then it's really hard to find a place. So if you are in Waterloo, Ontario, Canada, and you are renting out your place or subletting your place for 4 months, or you know anyone who is, reach out, contact me on Discord at Clear, hashtag 9999, or twitch.tv/ClearTFT, or on Twitter at ClearTFT. Let me know because I'm looking quite homeless at the moment.
Isn't every competitive player incentivized to not give you housing so that way you don't show up to tournaments because you have no house?
I even like messaged like Showtime is like, yo, have you found a place yet? Like I consider like rooming with Showtime, and then he just tells me he's already found a place, and then like he just like completely ditched me. So
Oh man, when Showtime is rejecting you, you know you're down bad. All right, good luck, Clear. Perhaps the highest stakes game you've ever played. Bryce.
This was a super fun episode. I feel like I talked too much, so I'll just I really enjoyed having you guys on the podcast. I think you guys are both really promising up and coming players. Some of my favorite stuff to do in TFT is talk to some folks like you. So keep at it. Excited to see you pop off, and I think there's a good chance at least one of you guys is going to wind up representing us at Worlds. So I'm excited to see who it is.
All right, that does it. So final words from me. We're going to be doing another episode on March 2nd with Robin and DQA. Don't miss it. We'll also be doing, or at least I'll be doing a stream for China's Cup this weekend, so make sure to check that out. Also, definitely watch the mid-set finale. Bryce and I will be casting it. That's part of the reason why we're hyping it up. It's going to be a really good time. And if you miss any part of this episode, you can always check out the VOD either on YouTube or the episode on Spotify. And if you do happen to listen on Spotify, please give us a 5 stars because I think that's how they also recommend podcasts, especially if you're going based off like gaming, different stuff. So it would definitely help us a lot. Outside of that, this has been DTIYDK episode number 18 with Frodan, Bryce, Clear, and WasianIverson. And we'll see you guys next time for more TFT action. Peace.